Trauma starts with lies. Lies we tell ourselves, lies our parents tell us, lies we tell our friends, what they tell us, and lies we tell our lovers. And in every case, the lie causes more trouble than the truth, because the truth stays the same. The lies change all the time because they're not the truth. So they have to be made up over and over and over again. And between lovers is the worst kind of lie, I think, because it just spreads into everyone else. The lie that was told to me, the first lie that I remember that really, really hit me hard was when my mother told me that the way you got pregnant was to press up against a boy. Now, that sounds funny to all of you, I'm sure, because you're not 79 and a half years old. You were not raised moving every month to 2 months from one military base to the other. You were not without internet. You were not without a Wikipedia. You were not without a library. You were not without friends or relatives or even a sibling. So you had no way to find out the truth. I had seen dogs mate, but why would I jump from that to humans? That didn't make sense to me because I didn't know. The lie was my mother told me if I pressed up against a boy, I would get pregnant. Well, at age 12, I finally met my father's family. I met my grandmother. She tells me I met her when I was 2, but of course I have no memory of that. I met my grandmother, my aunts, uncles, and 3 boy cousins, all within 11 months of my age. So, when I met them, my mother said to me, "Hug your cousins." I was shocked. I was so frightened. I was unnerved right to the bone because I thought, I'm going to get pregnant by all 3 of those boys. But I didn't. I hugged them. I was told to do that right in front of my father and my mother and my cousins and my girl cousin and everything. So, but I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I had started periods when I was 10. All I knew about periods is what I learned in school. My mother wouldn't tell me anything. My mother was a nurse, a registered nurse, and she wouldn't tell me anything. She didn't teach me. It wasn't part of her raison d'etre, I guess. But she didn't. And so I don't know whether she was embarrassed or nervous or the fact that she just didn't like me, and she saw me as an unwelcome roommate. That's because usually my father was gone. It was just the 2 of us. And I was her pissing post. She beat me very, very, very frequently, at least once or twice a week. And she used to beat me enough I couldn't go to school because she was afraid the bruises would show. So my relationship with my mother was I just wanted to get away. I knew then she lied to me. I mean, there were other things that came up. Like, I once asked her, how often should a woman hold her stomach in? Because I had heard from other girlfriends, and I don't know, that we didn't have a television, so I didn't have that either. But somewhere I'd heard that you should have a flat stomach. So I asked her, and she said, always. I said, always? Oh yes, always. If you're awake, you should be holding your stomach in all the time. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. When you're in school and you're concentrating on something, how can you also be holding your stomach in? So anyway, and of course she was an alcoholic. She was a raving alcoholic. For breakfast, she'd have 12 ounces of vodka, a glass, half full of vodka, and then she'd fill it to the top with sangria, unless she was ironing, and then she'd drink beer out of the freezer all day. Yeah, my mother was always drunk, just always drunk. And there were a lot of reasons for that. And I've separated. I couldn't even say her, I couldn't even talk about her forever until I learned to separate the empathy. I'm an empathic person, I'm an idealist. The empathy I felt for how she was raised as one person, and the absolute distaste I felt for her as another person who beat me all the time. I mean, she talked about it. She was like, spare the rod, spoil the child, only have one children, you've got to beat them. And that's what all people thought back then. They really did. They came off the farm, and the kids were, the silent generation was working on the farm, and they were always behaved themselves. You know, they were working on the farms. And after World War II, when my parents got married, kids were expected to behave in that same manner, especially because my parents went back to the farm for a short while, and that's when I was born and my brother was born. But he only lived 4 days, so that was my fault, always, that I was born first. I don't know. How do you do that? How do you accept lies from your parents? And what does it teach you? What does it teach you when you accept that what your parents are telling you is right, but it's not? And how does that change what's going on inside of you? Well, what happens, and I went all the way to a PhD to find out. Crazy. Anyway, what I learned was that the first 3, 4, 5 years of life, when you're just at home, unless, of course, you know, life is different for people who have cousins or neighbors or other people to play with and be a part of. I didn't have that kind of a situation. It was me and my mother. And most of the time I was with her, and most of the time my father was gone. So I learned that lying was what I should expect from her. And that's, you know, that's difficult. And I also learned that I should expect to be abused, and I should expect to have an alcoholic in my life. And people are evil and mean. My mother kept a list of everything I did wrong so that my father could beat me when he got home, after she'd already beat me. So it was, and my father, I had to separate that too. My father came up strict Roman Catholic, Polish home, speaking Polish as his first language. And he felt that whatever she said he had to do, because he was Roman Catholic, and you have to stay with your wife and you have to do what she wants. She wanted me beaten. Now, when I was with him alone, fishing or camping or hunting or whatever we might be doing that he enjoyed, I was treated with respect. But when I'd get home, he'd beat the crap out of me. It was weird. But it was lies, and that's what causes trauma. Lies cause trauma. The same way the boy who impregnated me at 15 lied. He had given me a ring. He said we would be married. I thought I was going to finally get away from my parents. I wasn't real crazy about his parents. I liked his dad a lot, but his mother was just not landed on this planet. She walked at a different level. She was always in an imaginary space. I don't know, maybe she drank too. I don't have any idea. But I adored his sister. Oh my gosh. She was really my first friend, because I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any friends because I was always moving, and we moved 22 times in 22 months by the time I turned 8 years old. with military orders. My father worked for Curtis LeMay, who they called Curtis the Homewrecker LeMay because he moved the family so much. And he was the star in the movie Dr. Strangelove because he was weird. He was really weird. But he was my father's boss in the military. So that's how that happened. And he was also a liar, obviously, because the things he did were so off the wall. But my boyfriend raped me and then told me there was nothing to worry about. I was just fine. Did he strip me down naked? No. No, he didn't. He crawled under my 100-yard crinoline, which is what all of us wear nowadays. Only the bottom half of him, and I had no idea what he was up to. And I certainly didn't agree to it. And yet, when I ask therapists, professionals, people who should know, is that a rape since he impregnated me? Yes, it's a rape. But did my parents believe me? No. Did he say I did that? Yes. But my parents didn't believe me. So that kind of thing teaches you that lying is what you should expect from people you care about. Isn't that strange? It made me think that it was a good thing I had no contact with my cousins or my grandmother or any of them because they would have lied to me. The only people I really trusted was my mother's father and his second wife, my Grammy. They were so open and alive with me, but I only saw them about 4 times in my life, so that wasn't a big help, was it? Anyway, the point is, watch out, analyze things for yourself, and remember that you don't really have a logic in your brain. You don't really know logic until you're about 24. And this is a really important lesson. Forgive yourself for anything you did before the age of 24 because you didn't have logic and you didn't know how to decipher what was going on. There are so many things now that I look back and think about what was said to me, and I realize it was another lie. It was another opportunity to take advantage of someone who's empathic and an idealist. I don't expect people to lie. I was always forced to be truthful. My parents, I shudder to think what my father would have ever done to me if I'd lied to him. And so that was drilled into me, and it was drilled into me by the military too. You do not stand against authority. In fact, I did a video. You'll see it in here if you stick around. There's a video on taking a stand and finally saying, no, I'm not going to do this, or yes, I'm going to do that, because you finally have figured out that the people were lying to you and you needed to do the opposite of what they were unreasonable with you, or in some way abused you. So you need to take a stand. Yeah, that was a good video. Anyway, if you want to talk to me, you can leave something down below, or you can stay for the end and go to my school, SKOOL. It's called Summerland Trauma Caregivers School. First person you have to take care of is yourself. And I have free registration, free courses, and it's free to talk to me, to have a meeting with me. You just have to let me know you want a meeting. I leave my information in there, and you can contact me and let me know you'd like to meet with me. And I will meet with you online, and there's no charge. I'd be happy to answer your questions truthfully. Thank you.